Update 6.66 for Doom Eternal is a big deal. This video will contain spoilers, so if you want to be surprised, don't watch it. Let's go through the list. Console players can now bind weapons to buttons on the controller to engage in quick swapping techniques that PC play is known for. Many console players will now be able to have a much better experience and see what it's like to truly play this game. The audio menu now gives the option to choose either the original theme or the Ancient Gods theme. Thank you, seriously, thank you. I like both of them, and now they're both available. 2 new master levels are included in the update, Mars Core from the base campaign and the World Spear from the Ancient Gods Part 2. Both levels are intense, imaginative, they introduce new types of hazards, and they have distinct feels since Mars Core is more traditional and the World Spear has all the DLC enemies and balances combat around the power of the hammer. I'll talk more about these master levels in a separate video. Bug fixes. The infamous map ambience bug is finally gone. There's more adjusting to the issue where projectiles were colliding with loot drops, and more. Though there is an issue where they've changed the dash bouncing in battle mode and it's affecting the single player campaign in some weird ways. I think more knowledgeable players are going to have to detail the effects of this to see if a better solution is possible. The race car HUD now features grenade charges. Thank the Lord! Now we just need to be able to assign both grenade types to individual buttons instead of having a grenade switch button, and we'll be all set. Though at this point, I doubt we're gonna get it. The Ancient Gods Part 2 has received some balance adjustments. Tag 2 was criticized, not universally but by many, for being too tame of an experience, especially after the bold intensity of Tag 1, and the brokenness of the hammer certainly didn't help. This update fills in the spots of Tag 2 that felt kinda empty and beefs up a few arena fights. In my opinion, Tag 1 is still a much better Doom Eternal experience, for many reasons, but this combat update makes Tag 2 a more appropriate installment to sit alongside Tag 1. Don't judge the changes by what's listed in the patch notes, there's actually a lot more going on. There's more incidental combat encounters, like empty hallways now featuring an arachnotron in your path, a few more heavies here and there in smaller rooms, little stuff like that to keep you busy. And 2 fights in particular have been significantly improved. Most importantly, the opening arena fight of the World Spear. The second phase fodder wave is completely gone, so no more time wasting. And the first phase has been expanded to contain a pain elemental, doom hunters, and prowlers. It feels so much better. Excellent work. The other big change is the final arena fight of Reclaimed Earth. It goes on a lot longer with additional waves that feature an Archvile, Tyrants, Doom Hunters. It's just a good time. It was one of the best arenas in Tag 2, and it's great to see it properly utilized. Imora was not changed, and I understand why. The feel of Imora is one of urgency. You're supposed to be flying forward with purpose, so I can see why they didn't up the challenge. And honestly, between the 2 escalation encounters and the final big arena fight, which I think is one of the strongest in Tag 2, I'm okay with it staying the same. But if they had made it more difficult, I certainly wouldn't have had an issue with it. I wanted to praise the changes to the outside BFG area of Reclaimed Earth as well. This space was just dying for a big fight in the original release, so it's awesome to see them add more enemies to it. A Doom Hunter shows up, a couple Hell Knights run in with Prowler support. Great idea, guys, really, I like it. But you didn't close off the exit, so you can still just run to the button and jump to the next part of the map, skipping the entire fight.
Oops.
Full Auto has been buffed. I did a video on it. It feels a lot better to use now because the movement penalties have been removed, the wind up and wind down speeds have been adjusted, and you can now skip the wind down animations to switch to another weapon, helping the mod have a more comfortable place in weapon swapping. Battle mode got a new demon. Say hello to the Dread Knight, Mr. Kangaroo jumping all over Doom Eternal's funky geometry demon everyone loves to hate. He looks awesome. I'm not a battle mode player, so I'm curious to hear what people think about him. Is he fun? Is he broken? Is he trash? Let me know. And before we get to Horde mode, I want to talk about the most important aspect of this update, the fix to the Faltering System, which is not mentioned in the patch notes? What? Josh! Okay, if you know Doom Eternal well by this point, you know this is huge. The Faltering System is the most complex, interesting, and important mechanic in the game. And sometimes it doesn't work. Before this fix, whenever you faltered an enemy, particularly Mancubi, Doom Hunters, and the Knight class demons, there was a chance that they'd snap out of the falter animation and hit you, or they'd straight up ignore the falter when it's supposed to be guaranteed. id Software has been working many months on this issue, as it was likely a very complicated thing to fix. But they got it. Outside of occasional anomalies involving issues of geometry like stairs or certain elevated textures, and maybe some wonkiness in the hammer effect, the faltering system is 99% consistent now. I won't say 100% because there's always the chance of something weird happening since Doom Eternal is such a fast and crazy game with so much happening at once. But the faltering system is in a good place now. Cyber Mancubi will go through the complete falter animation, allowing you to get close for the blood punch. Blood punches will always stop a Hell Knight that's advancing at you. Air falters now work properly. A microwave beam falter will stop a Baron in mid-air. A remote det rocket will consistently soft falter a Dread Knight when he jumps at you, at any point in the animation. I can't stress enough how important this fix is. It makes the game a more overall consistent experience, and since the strength of falter tactics is more reliable, some non-meta weapon mods have basically been buffed as a result of this. If you have 2 Dread Knights jumping around and you don't have an Ice Bomb, a quick remote det falter will stop their silliness and then Blood Punch refalters them to set up a kill. These tactics are effective, they're fun, and now they're actually consistent, so all these demons can get faltered. You may not even notice the improvement, because when systems are working properly, you don't really notice. It's like good controls in a video game. Most people don't notice how good the controls feel, they just know when they feel bad. But it really is a big improvement. And speaking of the faltering system, by popular demand of my streaming audience, my official Get Faltered t-shirt is now available, with artwork done by the fabulous Ervosa, who designed the incredible logos for my Brawler mode rule sets. If you watch my streams on Twitch, you know that whenever I play Doom Eternal and I do a sick falter setup, I always yell Get Faltered. It's like my catchphrase. I know, it's stupid. So head over to Mayo's shop and grab some merch and wear it to the gym, cover your dirty mouth with it, give it as a Christmas gift, put it on your fucking baby, I don't care, and get faltered. And you know what? There's a lot more stuff in this update. So much stuff I couldn't possibly cover it all in one video. Read the patch notes, they're quite detailed. Now, Horde mode, what everyone's been waiting for. What's the verdict? It's great. I think it's great. I think the way they approached this game mode was the best way to make something that the most players would enjoy playing. Was that the right direction? That'll be for you to decide. Horde mode takes you through 3 locations of Doom Eternal spanning the base campaign, Tag 1, and Tag 2. We've got Cultist Base, Reclaimed Earth, and the Halt. 3 missions containing arena fights, blitz rounds, coin collecting challenges, and traversal puzzles. Every challenge grants you points that are totaled up at the end to give a final rank. Extra points are gained from not losing extra lives or using the BFG. Each arena fight has multiple waves and special demons that appear that have to be killed quickly, and they drop a quad damage point multiplier that you'll want to save for an intense combat moment to maximize your score. Part of the replayability of Horde mode is learning when the best moment is to pick up the multiplier and who you're going to target it with. In my first playthroughs, I ended up forgetting to use it because I was waiting for the right moments, and before I knew it, the round was over, and I'd totally wasted the multiplier. And Horde mode can get so wacky sometimes that not everything will go according to plan. I was trying to save a 4x multiplier for an Archvile wave, but then a cursed Prowler knocked me into the multiplier and cursed me, and I wasted the whole thing just trying to chase him down. You spawn with the combat shotgun, and thank God full auto got a buff, because the early levels would be insufferable without it. And it's really easy to run out of ammo because you're just shooting so much stuff, and at times it can be hard to find fodder to chainsaw, making full auto executions a stronger tactic for survival. As you move through the waves of combat, you'll be given a random weapon. Why is it random? Because it puts you into uncomfortable situations where you have to depend on tools you're not used to depending on. It leads to unique and creative moments of improvisation and pressure, especially in the early levels. I can't remember the last time I was fighting for my life with the mobile turret, and I had a lot of fun doing it. My first run started out pretty heavy on Super Shotgun and Ballista with full auto shell restacks until I got my trusty weapons back. But on my second run, I didn't get the plasma rifle until the final mission, so I had to deal with a bunch of spirits with no microwave beam, and I used the beam in a lot of my setups, so I felt naked without it. I'm enjoying the unique pressure situations I find myself in when I try to switch to a weapon I don't have, or I forget which weapons I'm carrying this run and I just start hitting all the buttons. The random element of Horde mode makes for an always interesting replay when you decide to go again. And go again you will once you reach the end and see your high score. Maybe you're just competing against yourself like I am, or maybe you're trying to get a high spot on the leaderboards that have already been compromised by cheaters on PC. We have a mode where the goal is a high score and the leaderboards have already been compromised. It sucks. What I'm doing is setting personal goals. I don't care so much about where I sit on a leaderboard. I'm just competing with myself. Like I would back when I played Wipeout. I wasn't competing against other people, it was just satisfying to do better. So that's my recommendation. I'm gonna try to beat my own score. I want to hit that red medallion rank eventually. That's gonna keep me busy. And I just want to say, fuck all you cheaters. You're not fooling anyone. We know that no one with 50 hours of total gameplay is good enough to be outplaying our top players. So what are you even doing? You're scum. Aside from the issues with the point system, Horde mode is an incredibly polished experience. There's lots of little details in there that you don't necessarily notice. For example, when a multiplier drops, you can't actually pick it up for a few seconds because you could accidentally pick it up once it drops, so this mechanic prevents that from happening. Little things like that make the experience really solid. Some players don't like the randomized weapons. They want to pick the weapons they're most comfortable with and do the same thing they've always done from level 1. I am honestly glad they didn't set it up that way. Creativity and emergent gameplay moments come from limitations, and I know lots of people are having crazy and exciting moments they haven't experienced before. I think that's worth the price of some people being upset over not being able to fly over the arena with the meat hook and do precision bolt quick swaps from level 1. And the fact that you can't just start the game with precision bolt and ballista means that you can't immediately delete all the early game enemies, which contributes to the length of the experience. If you're running around with plasma rifle and full auto, you're going to have longer encounters in the early levels. I like that. If you just started with your full loadout and it was wave after wave, I'm sorry, but I personally think that's far less interesting than a progression system with extra challenges along the way. I think this mode is just for everyone to have fun. And if your skill level is beyond this, the 2 new master levels should make you happy. This is a free game mode for everyone, and I think it's a good thing that it's set up like this. If you make it through Horde mode and think it's too easy, it's because you're not playing it right. The entire point of the mode is to get you into an arcade scoring system, and if you engage in that system, it's really hard. I do think there's valid concern though. If you're taking the high score thing really seriously, trying to maximize your point gain as much as possible, certain orders of weapons could have a detrimental effect on your ability to get that optimal point gain during your quad damage multiplier. That's a fair criticism, and it's gonna be a headache for people who decide to play Horde mode constantly restarting looking for that perfect weapon order. I get it, that's frustrating. I just think the randomization gives so many more people a fun experience. Do you know the game Spelunky? You're trying to escape from these underground levels, and as you explore, you find stores to buy items. The main speedrun category uses a teleporter. Or if you don't want to use that, people have the no teleporter category where they use the jetpack to fly through the levels. The stores in Spelunky are randomized, so if you want to get the fastest time, you're gonna be restarting the game until you get what you need as early as possible. That's annoying, but I'd never want to change the randomized items for the benefit of speedrunning, because it's so fun to have to improvise using different items every time I play. And if I were always given the same items every time, I'd probably fall into habits and wouldn't experiment as much, and I wouldn't find myself in so many crazy situations, which is what makes the game so goddamn fun in the first place. It's not a perfect one-to-one comparison, comparing optional speedrunning to a dedicated point system, but it is a similar principle, and judging from the response so far, lots of people are enjoying it. I know I am. That second run where I didn't get the plasma rifle until the final mission, so I had spirits bouncing around from enemy to enemy, it was insane. I wouldn't trade that experience for a consistent path towards the max high score. Just to ease the RNG pressure a little bit, what if every run you started with a single reroll credit to use on one weapon spawn? Just in case you get to a point where your weapon spawns are about to ruin your run, you can spin again for a chance at something better. Just one time. I think that could be cool. There's still more point stuff to talk about. Not using the BFG will give you a big point bonus at the end, and I think that's cool. That's an extra solid challenge for a lot of players. People who don't always challenge themselves probably aren't limiting their super weapon use in general play, and speedrunners memorize the game to use the BFG at the most optimal places. So you've got to include extra BFG charges throughout Horde mode for your everyday Doom Eternal player, or they're going to be upset that they never have BFG. But you also don't want high-level play to be just learning when the best time is to shoot a BFG during a point multiplier, cheesing the system. So I think a point penalty is the way to go. I want high-score Horde mode play to be focused on actual combat, not on learning when to shoot the BFG in the air for a big point bonus. Horde mode gives you a bunch of extra lives, and the huge amount of lives is brilliant because it makes Horde mode accessible to a wide range of players. If you're absolutely terrible, you can still make it through a lot of this on the easy difficulty, dying over and over because of the extra lives. And if you're really good, you don't need 40 extra lives, but you don't want to lose any of them because each life gives you a point bonus. I only lost 2 lives on my first playthrough, and I was pissed both times. Honestly, for as much as I love the original PC mod of Horde mode by Prote and Solart, it was pretty defeating to make it an hour in and die and think, God, I gotta go back to the first level where I only have the shotgun. It was discouraging, and it made me put the mode aside for like 8 months until I was actually ready to make it all the way through. And I'm glad that we're not getting that experience with the official Horde mode. Extra lives being a point bonus and not actually for keeping you alive is something that makes this mode feel like its own fresh thing, like more of an arcadey experience, and I'm incredibly excited to see what the modding community does with this infrastructure. We're gonna see some crazy shit. This official Horde mode isn't nearly as difficult as the PC mods, but that was never the point. If you thought id Software was going to look at the absolutely brutal Horde mode PC mods and say, oh yeah, well we're going to make something even more brutal and longer so that only the best players on Earth will stand a chance. Come on, really? They're going to do that for a mode that's going to have thousands of players, many of which have never played a PC mod or play on console and couldn't even if they wanted to? This isn't made to directly challenge the best of the best, and it shouldn't be. And if I could take a moment to speak directly to the most elite Doom Eternal players out there. I love you guys. I admire your skill, your passion, and your dedication. I've gotten to know a good number of you over this time, and some of you I'd say have gone on to become friends that I trust. I'm asking you, please don't judge official content by PC mod standards. If you're playing 50 different community-made master levels and beating Prote and Solart's Horde Mode 2 and Kaiser Campaign and Slaughter maps on Ultra Nightmare, obviously material made for general consumption is going to be underwhelming. They'll never be able to make everyone happy, and I don't think that targeting the top 1% or less of Doom Eternal players will end well. A brand new game mode that's free for everyone can't be made to please the top level insane PC mod crowd, which relatively speaking is quite small. But id Software has provided us with something that will likely be modded into something they'll love. So I think everyone should be pretty happy with this situation, right? That being said, legitimate issues are legitimate issues, and we should always keep the conversation open so that we as a community and id Software as developers can continue to learn from each other and improve. From the reaction I've seen, higher level players are happier with the new master levels than they are with Horde mode. And really, when you step back and look at it, if the most skilled players are more satisfied by the master level experience, while the general audience is more satisfied by an arcade-style Horde mode, isn't that exactly how it should be? I, for one, am glad that Horde mode isn't just a big endless master level with all your weapons, though I certainly wouldn't mind having a mode like that. I like the emphasis on decision-making and adaptation that's present here, deciding when I'm gonna pick up a quad damage, trying to get enemies into clusters, thinking about when I'm gonna chainsaw. It feels different than the typical Doom Eternal experience I've had for a year and a half. And though I'm sure an endless randomized mode that gets harder and harder sounds great in theory, I don't think the complexity of Doom Eternal's AI lends itself to that. You can do that in a game where your AI is pretty simple, but when you've got spirits and cursed prowlers and bloodmakers and marauders and specter whiplashes and armored barons and dread knights, if you just keep upping the chaos and add in a whole bunch of RNG, I think that could end up being a disaster, especially since specific enemies play specific roles in combat, and if you just keep throwing them into a more and more chaotic mix, it's going to make people hate enemies, even more than some of them already do. If you want just a pure combat experience, of course this isn't everything you're looking for, but there's a lot of cool stuff to work with here. I'd recommend checking out videos like Cynic the Originals on point strategy, or watching Prote come up with his own strategies for the highest personal score he can get. You do have to be a really good player to get that red medallion, you just gotta work for it. It's more than gimmicks and luck, there's real skill involved in this mode, as well as strategy and going in with a flexible game plan. I think that makes this mode really interesting. I'm thinking about how to group enemies together or when to kill certain enemies, keeping track of where multipliers are. I'm switching weapon mods way more than I ever was before, and there's actually a meta evolving around switching runes for certain rounds. It's cool to have so much new stuff to think about in a game that I've been playing for so long. I'm not saying that I wouldn't welcome a simple endless wave mode that was just killing demons until you physically and mentally can't anymore, but if we had to choose, I would pick this. And who knows, maybe someday down the line the PC community might find themselves able to create a pure combat endless mode filled with perpetual escalating chaos. That would be great. I'd love to check that out when it happens. I mean, have you seen what the mod community has made lately? They're not far off. But I can understand why id Software wasn't interested in making that. The idea probably bores them. They probably don't want their curated combat experience being left up to an algorithm when it's so important to them to craft each battle in official Doom Eternal experiences. And I'm sure the thought of completely randomizing their combat to a crazy level brings all kinds of QA issues, and major studios have to deal with certification for every update, and it could constantly present balance issues and percentages of certain demons that aren't working well at wave number 50 or whatever. I can't imagine how much of a pain it would be to make as an official product that's held to a higher standard than community mods. So who knows what the future will bring, but I think whatever it is, it'll be awesome, and there will be something for everyone. Okay, enough difficulty talk, let's talk about the levels themselves. We get to visit a lot of different spaces from Doom Eternal, some of the best arenas. There's even a late game fight in the Exaltia Slayer Gate, which is a lovely nod to PC Horde mode. It's a cute moment. There are no new combat spaces, but honestly, I don't know why you would expect new combat spaces. The game's been out for a year and a half, 6 months without major paid DLC, all money and manpower is likely going towards id Software's next game. They're not going to be designing new levels for a big free update at this point. Between the arena fights, you'll have time-based challenges where you gotta kill demons, collect coins, and complete traversal puzzles as fast as possible. I wasn't entirely sold on the coin collecting bits at first, but after playing them, I really like them because they include the perfect enemies to make them interesting. Collecting coins while a cursed prowler runs around is genius. And oh my god, following an aerial coin path to then be blocked in mid-air by carcasses is so cruel, I love it. Traversal puzzles are okay. They're short, so I don't see them as much of an inconvenience, and I'm trying to keep general audiences in mind. These puzzles contain certain aspects of platforming that some people aren't used to. Plenty of people have never messed with sideways meat hooking, so mastering these levels is gonna make them better players and lead to better enjoyment of arena combat. I see things like this as a net positive because I think as a community we should want lesser experienced players to have to go through the steps of getting better. A higher average talent level means our player base is more experienced and knowledgeable, and that puts us in a better place going into the future. The Blitz bonus sections are pretty decent. It's easy to run out of ammo for your preferred weapons, so I found myself scrambling for just anything I could use. Pretty fun. The first one is... okay, I'm gonna say it, I think the first one is kinda lame. It's just shooting a hazard over and over to kill Hell Knights. I don't think it's very interesting, general players aren't gonna learn anything from it, nothing changes. I think this could have been better. I really like the Tyrant one though, that gets crazy. The pacing of Horde mode is mostly good depending on your skill level. Since this is a game mode for the general audience and not a master level, I think it makes sense to open lightly, especially since the game is doing two important things. One, it's introducing new rules, and two, it's introducing DLC demon mechanics to some players that haven't fought them before. I think the cultist-based Slayer Gate is strong, it's when the first mission starts to come alive, but the main map arena fights are a bit lackluster. So I wasn't entirely sure about it all for the first mission, but it starts to pick up. And at about the halfway point of Reclaimed Earth, the second mission, everything falls into place and Horde mode gets pretty fun. Mission 3 at the Halt starts with a really good fight. I've always been a fan of this arena. And the final fight is when they really crank it up. It may be the hardest fight in all of Doom Eternal. Multiple buff totems, possessed demons, marauders, turrets protecting buff totems, archviles, just madness. It's really fun. It's the last fight of Horde mode, so it deserves to be crazy. You're definitely going to need to use the Sentinel Hammer. And I'm happy to report that the hammer has been changed to require 4 charges instead of 2. It's perfect, because in Tag 2 I feel like I always have the hammer, whereas here I'm regularly thinking, man, I really need to get a hammer. That's how it should be. I think there was a missed opportunity to lead up to a big ending though. I think the final fight is awesome, but it needs some kind of announcement like, prepare for the final fight. And I would have liked just one more arena fight after the last one. To conclude, on my personal grading scale, I'd say Horde mode gets an 8.5 out of 10. If you're one of the elite players of the community, I could see it being more of a 7. If you're a general player, a 9 to 10 is totally understandable. At the end of the day, I'd call Horde mode a success. I'd call this update a success. And as stated earlier, I can't wait to see what the PC mod community does with the infrastructure of Horde mode. Oh, and there's going to be seasons. They'll be remixing the Horde mode experience in the future. We don't know anything about that yet, but how exciting. Man, I don't know what else to talk about regarding Horde mode. I'm sure I missed something. Tell me about it in the comments. I'm exhausted. I can't even think anymore. Oh, there's a bug where the weapon wheel customization isn't registering in Horde mode. They said that they're fixing that. Before I end the video, I want to thank everyone who donated on stream to a Bell's fundraiser. So a big shout out to Citizen Duck TV, Maynard, Tony the Phony Pony, Virgil Fromage from Age 69, KJ Gisherson, Xenombine, I think I said that right, Baze, DanSense84, Mike, Mad Max G, and Zazman. You're all very kind and we thank you very much for your support. See you in the master level video and get faltered.